Shalom Aleichem, and a wonderful morning to everybody. Heilige Chevra who are here with us, and beautiful Chevra online. Be'ezras Hashem Mamash, we should go from strength to strength always. Let's start with our Leilu Nishmas, because remembering that we are part of a chain. Every single person as an individual is part of a chain. There's a vertical reality that we experience, and there's a horizontal reality that we experience. The vertical reality that we experience is that you and I, all of us, we came from somewhere, as Pirkei Avos tells us, and we're going somewhere. Our nation has a destination, and it started as a place of origin, and we are wanting, as the Heilige Vilna Gaon writes, that we are wanting to understand the Hishtalshelus of where we have come from, what's taken place in the past, in order to have a better understanding of self, in order to move forward to our future. History is important. Tanakh is important. Mesorah is important. And when we miss something, when we forget we're part of a chain, it hurts us. Nevertheless, we have a horizontal reality as well. That horizontal reality is the place we are living in now, the time period we are living in now, the people that we are with, who we are with, the different groups of people we are with. All of this is the horizontal. We have to take that into consideration as well, the vertical and the horizontal. So in regards to the vertical, in regards to where we have come from, we know at this point in time, we experience people graduate from this world. We experience that people graduate from this world. So Be'ezras Hashem, Leilu Nishmas, Yaakov Binyamin ben Rachamim, Reisha Devaira bas Yaakov HaKohen, Chaya Sarah bas Yehuda Leib, Malka bas Zev. And as well, unfortunately, there was a tragic situation with one of my wife's family members yesterday, a distant cousin who lived in Netanya, Rav Amos Gveta, who was a Libyan tzaddik, a Talmud Chacham. He was one of the Nistarim. So unfortunately, his Levi was yesterday, and Be'ezras Hashem, he should have an aliyas neshama, and he should go from strength to strength. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. And as well, beautiful Chevra, a dear friend of ours from a couple of weeks ago who graduated from this world, Yonasan Eisan ben Mordechai Tzvi, Rabbi Cohen. He should be having a journey, and I'm sure he's smiling and he's reminding everybody in this new world that he is in for a certain short amount of time, hopefully, to make sure things are working out for us here in a strong way. Be'ezras Hashem. And as well, Refuah Shalema. This is now moving from the vertical to the horizontal, to remind ourselves of people that exist now, to have that sensitivity, to have that compassion, to have our heart, our mind, ears and eyes open enough to notice the other, not too much that our brains fall out. So we want Refuah Shalema Mayan Bas Devaira Hadassah and Revival Bas Tova Tzvi. And constantly a newness, hitchadshus, and a chizuk Be'ezras Hashem for Akiva Michael, for the Yavin family, for the Kaplan family, and for the Kasper family, Be'ezras Hashem, and to just say thank you to the Chaburas. We have our Chaburas during the week, Baruch Hashem, the Motzei Shabbos Chabura, the Sunday Chabura, Tuesday Chabura, the Women's Wednesday Chabura, having the Chabura for Work Inspired. Be'ezras Hashem, every member of the Chabura, we should constantly go from strength to strength and to remind ourselves what's important, and to live for what's important. So today, just as a Hagdama, somebody asked this morning about the upcoming Shiur. So last week we didn't have Shiur, this week we have Shiur, and somebody asked, what's the connection between what we are studying, and obviously the 3 weeks, these days. And I laughed because the Metzias is, it's always connected. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Everything is Echad. Everything is Echad. And the Torah is Echad. So when we look at this inyan that we are in now, the time period that we are in now, Bein HaMetzarim. So it's called Bein HaMetzarim, based on Eicha in the first parak, that we're looking between the little gaps of the window. What caused the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash? What's causing our strife now? So if we look through the sugyas, we have the sugya in Gittin, Nun, Hey, and a bit earlier and a bit later, where it speaks about the sugya. And the real sugya that speaks about the Sinas Chinam speaks about other things as well. What's the pasuk it starts with? Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid. Based on Mishlei. Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid. What is this Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid? Happy or growth orientated, depending if you're going Hirschian or in the classical understanding. But happy or praiseworthy is the person that's constantly afraid. Pachad is afraid. There's a fear, and tamid constantly. That sounds a normal way to live. Well, what's going on? So in our tradition, the way that we're sharing what we're sharing here, the Metzias is as following. We know in that sugya, and we know what happened with Kamsa Bar Kamsa. There was a korban that was brought, and there was a particular Rav who did not offer the korban because there was a pagam in the eye, or there was a pagam in the lip. However, we're understanding the sugya, but there was a defect in the animal, and it couldn't be brought as a sacrifice. And we see basically how we paskin on this situation. We see the halacha as it unfolded. And in fact, even in one of our classic Musa Sfarim, the Mesilas Yesharim, the path of the just, the Ramchal brings this as false chasidus. False chasidus. A chasidus that is not real. A false chasidus. And he brings this Gemara, he brings this piece of Talmud to prove the point. Why? What is Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid? What is the 3 weeks Bein HaMetzarim, and how's it connected to what we are working on here? Oh, my dear friends, Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid is when we believe our nefesh too much. Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid is a person should be happy that they're in a state of das. What does that mean? When a person believes everything is always going to be the same. Of course we're not going to offer the korban. Of course. There's a hole in its lip, a hole in its eye, a pagam. Of course. But the question wasn't asked. 1 minute. Beis HaMikdash is always going to be. The temple is always going to be. We'll always have a temple. Well, according to this Rav, he believed he wasn't Ashrei Adam Shemefached Tamid. He says, no one's ever going to kick us out of Israel. Beis HaMikdash get destroyed? No, Beis HaMikdash is never going to get destroyed. The painful truth is, you and I, we don't know what's unfolding. All we know is this moment. We know this moment. And Torah Mitzvahs is very much about this moment. This moment, and that's it. The past, the future, ich weiß nicht. Sazamen, I'm gathered here fully right now in this moment. Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid. Praiseworthy is the person who's constantly afraid. They are afraid that they're going to conjure up in their mind an imagination that is not real. And more than that, Bein HaMetzarim. What's Bein HaMetzarim? Between the straits, between the little gaps. So if we think about it, Bein HaMetzarim, in between, we're looking in between. So the Sfarim HaKadoshim, a few different places, the Heilige Zayda, the Ropshitzer, and the Jikuf, they bring this. In between, you have Avraham and you have Yaakov. Avraham and Yaakov are definites. Yitzchak is das. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And we've shared this before. Neshama, Ruach, and Nefesh. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. What's the nakuda of in between? Das. Yitzchak. Yitzchak represents das. Yitzchak, as Chazal tell us, represents the kates. A way we can change, a way we can add, a way we can describe das is subtlety. Subtlety. in between the straits, looking in between, it's subtle, it's very subtle. You can't be seen, but you can see. It's an akuda of shtika, it's an akuda of quiet. You're behind, you can see through, but they can't see you. Sometimes when looking at the kids, I open the curtain slightly, that I could just see that they're okay, but I don't want to stir them or disturb them, that they see me. Open it slightly. Subtle. And in our generation, just another articulation of what we're trying to create here in regards of a mindset to help to be part of the unfolding of redemption is subtlety. Now, it's true to say there's times to be excited and on fire for the future. 100% to be part of the messianic process. To be part of the messianic process. To be here in Eretz Yisrael, to be in a bomb shelter when the sirens are going. There's something invigorating about it. There's something invigorating. There's energy in there. Things are happening when we're watching the news that we shouldn't watch. When we're watching the news, when we're hearing what's going on in the world, there's something we're part of the story. They're going to tell stories about us. There is this excitement that's in the end, there's passion. And it's so easy to fall into one camp or another camp. And there will be people who identify with this camp. There'll be people who identify with that camp. There are people who are going to identify with that camp. That's the nature of life. Chazal tell us in Saita, there'll only be only a few small groups of people that will be able to be in this state of perpetual subtleness. Chazal term it as Anshe Emes. There'll be people of truth. Truth is subtlety. There's an element of truth which is very, very in your face. But most of the time, truth on a certain respect is subtlety. When a person learns a sugya, when a paisek learns a sugya, and they're asked a shaila, so in regards of the principle learnt, it's very accurate, it's very defined. This is truth, this is the sugya, this is the understanding of the sugya, this is not what this is. Yet, as Dain Lopian and the Biala Rebbe would always explain, when somebody comes to ask you a question, you move from a state of holding all of these black and whites, these principles, but then you shift into a state of das so you can listen to the person speaking, quietly listening to what's being asked. And then we become aware of the subtleties. We become aware of what's being asked. We become aware of what not is being asked. We have the famous story with Reb Chaim Brisker. A lady comes to ask and asks, can I use 4 cups of milk for Pesach Seder? So it's a real shaila, and you could deal with the face valueness of the shaila. But obviously, Reb Chaim turned to his son and said, make sure she has wine and meat. So when you're in communication, when you're facing a reality, there's what's being communicated. But then, chevra, there is so much that is not being communicated. And you and I, we are meant to be in a state of das where we can pick up on those subtleties. We can pick up on those subtleties. We don't buy in to just our nefesh interpretation, just our nefesh identification. Where this takes place, for example, is lemashal. You have something which is called urgent, and you have something which is called important. Urgent and important. Urgent, say for example there's a leak. Say for example, Khalil v'chas, there's a leak or there's a health issue that needs to be dealt with. Everything will stop and you'll deal with it. We've got somebody here that works as a handyman, but more mature than that, more sophisticated, engineering and handyman. And I'm sure that somebody calls him up and says, our chashmal is completely out, or this is broken, or something's wrong here. If he was working and he was working on a job and it's something very, very serious, he may turn to the person and say, listen, this is the matzav, I have to go help this person because of this and that and the other. So an emergency is somebody drops what they're doing and they run to deal with something else. something important is not an emergency. Something important is consistent. It's a consistency that should be done day in and day out. It's important. So, for example, caring for one's health, caring obviously for one's family, having Seder in the home, caring for one's spiritual relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, learning, davening, working on one's midos, having sichas chaverim, if that is important, whatever it may be. So there's an emergency and there is that which is important. And das will have the availability to remember what is important. You can tell the difference between what's important and what is an emergency. You do a shikl hadas, you weigh what's going on. Okay, this is an emergency. There's a whole, I have to drop what I'm doing and deal with it. And my health is important. Exercising, a little bit every day, whatever it may be, is important. Eating well is important, etc., etc. So now what happens is your nefesh can so easily create a situation where something which actually is really not important becomes an emergency. And this is what we've said time in and time out. The chevra here, we know about this. News, for example. News will grab your attention, and the news will, so to speak, be communicated. This needs to be known now. I need to know about this now. Politics. I need to know about this now. Where really, it's not an emergency, and it actually isn't that important. And people get very confused. Their nefesh will share a narrative where this now becomes an emergency. I need to know about the news now. And really it's not important at all. You will know what needs to be known the way you need to know about it. And I speak to so many people, and it's scary. It's so scary because they cannot have a conversation that's not about news and politics. I speak to people. I told you the Maisa of the dentist who's still going strong. What happens? I gave him, I think it was last year already, this time period. I think it was this time period. What was the Maisa? The Maisa is that he was in one of the Chaburas, and we said to him, his avodah is not to speak about politics or work, politics and news at work. So he said, what am I going to speak about? And it really was difficult. He had to sit, Motzei Shabbos, with a pencil and paper, and he started to write out, I could speak about my family, I could speak about their family, I could speak about education, etc., etc. I could speak about how people are doing, what's going on in your heart. And his father was a dentist, and he was telling his father, and his father was joking with him. He says, once upon a time, even though the person's mouth is open, it was like a therapy session. You'd come to the barber, you'd come to the dentist, it was like a therapy session. And today, on a certain respect, what do people speak about? Superficial things. Speak about things that really aren't so impactful on us, truly. And it was very difficult for him. But then when he went to work and he started this, he knows he actually put up a petek. He put up a little poster, no news, no politics, no politics, no news. And he found it very difficult. And it was vulnerable because he was asking people real questions. How are you doing inside? Emotionally, how are you doing? And they would ask him real questions. How are you? How's your shalom bayis? How's chinuch? How are your children? How do you, he would ask questions, he set questions. Do you feel fulfilled in life? And the reality is, it's something, again, that things that really are not important could be made so important. And Bein HaMetzarim is a time to recognize what is important to us. There will be emergencies, but what is important really? What is truly important? And Ashrei Hadam shemefached tamid, happy is the person who is in this state of das. Happy is the person who could do a shikl hadas. They could become conscious and they can evaluate and they can ask, you know what? That is less important than this. Sometimes a person can get upset or irate with the people closest to them. Why? It's odd. And the nakuda is knowing. Subtlety, Bein HaMetzorim. The 3 weeks is about subtlety, and unfortunately there's an erosion process. We know 5 things happened today. The walls were breached. So erosion process starts on that which is most least important on a certain respect. It's not most least important, wrong word, furthest out. Then what happens is that it comes all the way into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, where there's an idol placed in the Holy of Holies. What starts to happen if we are not on guard, if we're not Ashrei Hadam Shemefached Tamid, if we're not Balei Das, we get lost in the noise, so much so. For some people, and I've had this before, when I say to people certain things and I say it in more of maybe a dramatic or black and white way, they get very flustered. Why? Because the process of impurities has entered them to such a degree that it's like hurt. It's hurtful for them. Especially again, just going back to politics, going back to news and politics. People get very, very emotional about it. And they ask me, why, don't you care? And I said, listen, it's all I'm thinking about. All I'm thinking about is Achdus Yisrael. All I'm thinking about is how to better my life. I try very hard, my family's life, the community. We have a community here of a few hundred people, and online we have over a couple of thousand people, and a lot of you know I try to reach out to you. It's not easy. We're starting yeshiva soon. Elul time, we're starting yeshiva. There's a lot going on, but it's important to recognize what is important and what's less important. What is more important? And you need shekal hadas. Yitzchak is gevura. Yitzchak is fundamentally that which is holding invisibly everything together. Yitzchak's healthy boundaries. It's knowing your values and knowing your beliefs. And you do a shekal hadas. Is this taking me away from living a healthier life? And people find it very difficult because they feel they need to share. They need to share. And sometimes, what you have to share is just breeding more darkness, more distance. And that's why, for example, we spoke about this a few times. There's a lot that doesn't need to constantly be spoken about. I get asked questions, so I'm speaking about it. I'm reminding myself the whole time of the same thing. But Bein HaMetzorim, subtlety, the art of remembering deeply, deeply what's important. Having the ability to observe your nefesh. Am I feeding into a narrative that's unhealthy? Is my narrative trying to make me safe, secure, and certain? I feel comfortable in this camp. I don't identify with that camp. And people stir things up. Whoa, Rabbeinu Shalom. And everyone's like a Bibi, everyone's like a Trump. Oh, I could speak about this because I can make a difference. No, you can't make a difference. It's stupid. I'm not Bibi, I'm not Trump, I'm not the King of England. Come on. So what do I need to concentrate on? How I could be present in the moment. To be a baldas, balas das, is being present in the moment. Assessing what my dalad amais is. Das tachton chitzoni. What space am I in right now? Remember Sefer Yetzirah 6:1. Olam and Shana. What space I am in now? What time I am in now? Space is in macro space. Time is in macro time. But space is in micro space. Space is in micro time. Where am I right now in the present moment? Where am I right now in context to time? And what's my job? And remember, Chevra, you are always in the most beautiful of places, the most perfect of places. You're always with the most important people in your life right now. And you're always doing the most important thing right now. That was the derech of the Nistarim. I'm in the most perfect of places because this is where I am. I'm in a space with the most beautiful people because this is what is now. And in regards to me, I'm in the most perfect position to Megala HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world right now. And we can mess it up. We can mess it up. We have the famous medrash that we've quoted. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took Adam Rishon and showed Adam Rishon all around the garden and said, I've created for you a beautiful world. I want you to live a beautiful life in this beautiful world, but you can mess it up. Try not to mess it up. Try not to mess it up. So when we speak about Bein HaMetzorim, people speak about Sinas Chinam. Very nice. Very nice. Don't get me wrong, it's good. Yeah, speak about Achdus. Once a year they speak about Achdus for 3 years. For 4 weeks of the year. But then what do you actually do about it? So we're speaking about the mechanics. People speak about wanting redemption. How do you get there? People speak about wanting unity. How do you get there? People speak about wanting peace, wanting our nation to work together. How do you get there? We are speaking about how you get there. We are speaking about how you get there. Our whole education system, our whole derech of avodah is sharing with us how we bridge from the derech eretz to the Torah, from the exile to the redemption. We're speaking about how we get there. People speak about what they want. I don't hear many people speaking about how you actually get there. We're speaking specifics. How do you get there? And it's not easy, and it isn't easy. It's not always so straightforward. It takes courage, it takes discipline, it takes turning up again and again and again. Zusammen, together. Not as individuals, together. So when we look at the Derech of Avodah, and we look at the first part of the Derech of Avodah, we have one chabur, it's called Becharta B'chaim. And it goes through self. It goes through Bein Adam le'atzmai, talks about self. We've spoken about this before. Bein Adam le'olam, in context to self, the first place outside of self is the space we are around. Other people, Bein Adam le'chaveri, Bein Adam le'makom. Our relationship with the divine. When we understand self in context to the four sacred worlds we are always relating to, we turn up differently. We've said before, when we look at the world today, there's a crisis. You hear so many people don't love themselves. And we're constantly, oh, you're amazing, and you're from you have an neshama, etc., etc. We constantly, but if a person can't themselves own that self-love, it doesn't go anywhere. Why do they find it challenging that they love themselves? Their self-esteem issues, this is what we're speaking about, because of this great confusion that we are talking about. People who don't love themselves, they find it difficult to respect themselves. Why don't they respect themselves? Because they don't trust themselves. Why don't they trust themselves? Because they don't know how they work. What does it mean to trust yourself? To be truthful with yourself. As we've said time and time again over the last 17 years, to be truthful, to know how you work, to say something and carry it through. When a person thinks or says that they will do something and they don't carry it through, it creates an erosion. A person starts to erode from within. Oh, again, I did not follow through with what I said I would do. Oh, again, I lied to myself. Doesn't feel nice to be a liar. We try to soften those words. But when we are present and we say something, we don't follow through with it, it erodes us. We lose our ability to trust ourselves. Then we don't respect ourselves. Then we don't love ourselves. And when we don't love ourselves, we find it difficult to love others. And we get caught up in the noise. The noise, so much noise. The noise that the nefesh makes us feel that this is an emergency. I have to look at the news. I have to look at the politics. It's an emergency. So important. And then the things that are really important, it's a switch. The Yetzer Hara gets us. And then when the Yetzer Hara gets us, who's after the Yetzer Hara getting us? Amalek, a little bit deeper. And then from Amalek, it's the Eruv Rav. Oh. And then after the Eruv Rav, what we call the Malach HaMaves. That's the process. A person's das falls into nefesh. When a person's consciousness is consumed by ego self, it starts with the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara wants to separate us. Remember what we spoke about, the Lashon of Ra, Reish Ein, air, awakened for something else. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, not v'ahavta chavarecha kamocha, because it's for people who you're not so connected to. Ra etzon, etymologically, the shepherd is bringing the sheep that ran away. Ra, Tov is connection, unity, union, alignment. Ra is separation. Yetzer Hara wants to separate us from that which is important. Then what happens? Amalek makes us forget. We start to forget more and more what we are. I am consciousness. I am the witness. And again, takes discipline. Yitzchak, Abraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov, Neshama, Ruach and Nefesh. Yitzchak is Gevura. Yitzchak is Chok, laughter, because when you remember who you are and when you could really be strong within yourself. What's the last month of the year? Adar. What's the sense of Adar that's brought in the Sefer Yetzirah? Not the sense, but the midah, so to speak. It's chok, laughter. Because when a person's reached a certain maturation, a certain level of maturity, they can look out and they can laugh at things. Things become lighter. So you can face situations and you know, there's this deep knowing. By the tzaddikim, they have this grin on their face. Look at Rav Morgenstern, he's got this cheeky grin on his face. The Nakuda is Das. When I remember I'm Das, I'm remembering. Yetzer Hara can get a person, Chas v'Shalom, becomes then Amalek. They forget. And when they forget, then Eruv Rav. And then from Eruv Rav, Chalil v'Chas, Malach HaMaves. And whose choice is it? B'charta b'chaim. You need to choose. We need to choose our four sacred relationships and work on it. Our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with the world around us, our relationship with others, and our relationship with the divine. And know how relationships work, which we've spoken about. And know our true identity. And recognize subtlety. Because the erosion takes place if we are not careful. So we have the wall that was breached. Yetzer Hara, that's the wall that was breached. And a person works them way in till a person gets to the Kodesh Kadoshim, which is the Malach HaMaves, death. Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So what's happening now from this fast until Tisha B'Av is the remembering of a process, what can happen within ourselves, my friends. That we forget we're consciousness, and our consciousness falls into ego self, and then from falling into ego self, Amalek, and then from Amalek, Eruv Rav, and from Eruv Rav, Malach HaMaves. Same process as what's going on now within the 3 weeks. And every single year we're remembering. And as we know, these are the hottest months of the year because we need to live with a fire. We have to have a verbrennte fire, a fire in our belly. We have to be alive with something, living for something, purpose-driven. We need it. We need to be alive. But the aliveness and the fire channeled in the right place. And who's it up to? Up to you. Radical opportunity, radical responsibility, radical achrayus, radical responsibility, radical opportunity, radical responsibility. I remember when I was by the Rebbe, the Biala Rebbe, he would often say, when I would say something, Rebbe, there's a very bad problem. The Rebbe would laugh. There's a wonderful opportunity. The reframing of words are so important. I once said, Rebbe, I failed again and again at this. And he says, no, you had a learning curve. This was a learning curve. You're learning. You're gathering data. You're working out what doesn't work and you're working out what does work. Eventually people will come to you and they'll ask you about something, and you could say, well, my friend, I could save you 15 years. 15 years. I failed for 15 years and I found what works. Here's what works. Here's what doesn't work, just so you should know about it. And that's what the Rebbe said to me. The Rebbe said, how can I guide you? Because I did the 50 years of messing up. That's what he said to me. That's why I'm so secure, he said. I'm strong in what I say because I messed up. This nakuda of recognizing what is important to us. What is important? And it's true, there's a strong battle of dark and light. There's a strong battle of evil and good. There is a strong battle right now. But sometimes we add to the fracture when we lack subtlety. I find so many times it's not that people disagree and there's nothing to talk about. I find a lot of the time, and I've said this before, people need to be heard. Everybody has a story. There's an energy, there's an energetic story inside. People need to be heard. People are functioning according to their beliefs. They're functioning according to their inner coding. And if they don't know how to work, that inner coding is leading more than das. When you could sit with somebody and you can gift somebody, Baal Shem Tov listening, just listening to somebody, shh. You can listen to somebody's story and then repeat their story back to them, asking, did I hear everything you said correctly? Is anything I missed out? When you live a life that you can be the anchor, and you can allow somebody to share. I want you to talk so I can hear you. I want you to talk so I can know you better. I want you to talk so I can understand where you have come from. And then I will repeat back to you, and you'll tell me if it's validating or not. Did I really hear you correctly? And then only afterwards you ask them, can I share my story now? Or hopefully maybe they will say, wow, you heard me so well, I feel different, I feel heard, I feel seen. Now can I hear from you? And I've done this before. Many, many, many times, taking people from very different situations, but when you can get them to sit down and one person is in a state of das, Bein HaMetzarim, they're listening, and the other person is talking and they feel safe. They feel safe. Wow. Afterwards it changes everything, and then you swap roles. Shh. By the end, how many times there's been a situation where they may disagree, but there's deep understanding and a deep recognition of where they've come from and how they've come to this position. And for each person it makes sense. And typically what will happen is they'll say, if they've really been listening, you know what, if I went through what you went through, I'll probably believe the same thing. Sometimes it doesn't happen like that, but a lot of the time it does. Chevra, Bein HaMetzarim, das. The grand confusion that's enveloped us in our generation. Not knowing how we function, not knowing how we work. And we're just in the noise, more in the noise. And people have their interesting ideas about this group of people and that group of people and this group of people. They live here and they live there. And obviously, because we're so smart, if we keep on bashing each other over the head, obviously everything will change. Obviously. Everything will change. I'm so smart. If I'm more aggressive, if I'm more verbal, if it takes up more room, obviously that's the way things will change. Oh, I'm so clever. I'm such a clever boy. And you look out at the world. So, what do you make of that? What do you do with that? So obviously, if we've been doing the same thing for hundreds of years and we keep on doing it, no matter how it is being expressed, you keep on doing the same things, you get the same results. The Torah has shared with us, Baal Das, Baalas Das, understand the architecture of the soul, come and reclaim our dignity, to live as an aligned being, neshama, ruach, and nefesh, to open up the conversation of the third Messiah, that's Messiah of the written law, the Messiah of the oral law, and the Messiah of how we work. Experientially though, practically, that then changes everything from the inside out. And with this, my friends, as a Hagdama, we're just deepening our experience in our kuntras here. And just to constantly recognize this. We started off by saying how there's das and nefesh. Das we can label here, for the sake of this communication, self-esteem. Nefesh we can label confidence. Das, the foundation, is not dependent on anything. It's not dependent on anything. I exist, I'm good within myself, I stand whole. That's das. Yet, das without nefesh. Nefesh is confidence, skills, talents, creativity. The system generates confidence, the strength and vitality that arise when we see ourselves capable of shaping reality. Confidence matters deeply. Without das, without nefesh, life stagnates. Without accomplishment, creation dries up. Without agency, the human spirit withers. But nefesh never carried the task of proving self-worth. It never carried the task of supplying identity. It never carried the task of creating inner wholeness. That's das. And the great confusion that we experience today, and we're really in it. We're really, really, really in this great confusion. The great confusion when confidence, nefesh, replaces self-esteem. So what did we say? Many people unknowingly move their self-esteem das into confidence, nefesh. This is an aspect of yetzer hara, not maliciously, not purposely. If we're not speaking about who we are, the natural consequence is we think we are our nefesh. If we're not educated into this, no one's done it on purpose. This is the inyan of yetzer hara. And that's why Amalek has taken hold in Erev Rav. These three dargas are really owning us right now. We've been in exile for a long time. If you want to blame anyone, blame Hashem. I blame Hashem. Nu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, megale yourself already in a revealed way that every single individually can experience it in the cells of their body. That everyone should be known and everyone should be knowing. We've gone through a lot in exile. And we can reclaim our dignity and we can reclaim our destiny. They're the 6 shifts. We can reclaim our destiny and we can reclaim our dignity. So, again, many people confuse self-esteem, das, with confidence. The inner formula becomes, I am good as what I achieve. As long as achievement flows, they feel alive. When success fades, the confusing voice sounds like this: I will be okay when. I will feel whole when. I will be happy when. When the money arrives, when the relationship stabilizes, when the books are published, when the businesses grow, when the children succeed, when I pray better, when I learn better, when life finally looks the way I think it should. Structurally, the psyche forms the following equation. Circumstances equate to core state. So if the circumstances rise, the core state rises. If the circumstances fall, the core state falls. But really, what is the matzav? Reordering the inner world, the Torah model. Core state equates to circumstances. My core state does not emerge from what I have. My core state emerges from who and what I am. I am the part behind all my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. I'm the witness. Again, it's difficult to describe. We can talk around it. We can't speak to it. I could take a breath. Letting my body calm, recognizing I could be aware of my physical sensations. I'm relating to my emotions and my thinking. I'm not them, they are part of me. I'm not them, they are part of me. I'm the witness behind. I'm das, I'm consciousness. And that opens me up to my availability to hear the baskol, to be with the baskol, to hear the wisdom of the neshama. I am Elokai Memal Mamash, a soul drawn from the divine. I carry infinite dignity. I exist before I achieve. The inner wholesome das, my actions and my accomplishments become an expression of life when they work together. Achievement strengthens joy, it does not create it. Loss challenges, I don't know what I've written here. It does not destroy identity. Nefesh doesn't destroy identity. From this place, the human being stands wealthy before acquiring anything at all. What we're saying here, tachlis kapshutai, I want to remind myself I am consciousness, das. Bein hametzarim, turning it in yourself, is das, looking at the world through the nefesh. The nefesh is what's going on within us. Das is having the availability to look through the little gaps, subtlety. Reordering the Mishnah. So now we're going to go and we'll finish this paragraph for today. We're going to reorder this Mishnah. Reading the Mishnah, Eizahu Ashir. Eizahu Ashir. Now the Mishnah opens a new meaning. Who is wealthy? One who is joyful with their portion. Now it's interesting. It's interesting to note. I have a footnote here. And basically this footnote goes to explain how chelek doesn't just relate to physicality, which on a certain respect is very interesting because physicality is a bechina of oilam. Chelek as well relates to time. So, for example, we use the term chelek in time of Rosh Hashanah, and again, a whole lomdus here, not a lomdus, but it's just painting out and unfolding the Mara Makaimus with the Mishnah and the Gemara and Rambam, how chelek means time. So, Eizahu Ashir, who's somebody who's rich, somebody who is in sync, Olam Shana Nefesh, with chelek. Chelek now means two things. It means space and time. Space and time. Again, Olam Shana Nefesh. Nefesh is you. The quality of your organization within, the quality of your synchronicity, the quality of your neshama, ruach, and nefesh working together, that quality impacts olam, shana, nefesh. So the quality of your nefesh impacts olam and shana. Chelek is olam and shana. Chelek is to do with the things that we have, the space we are in. Chelek is to do with time. So, what are we told? The Mishnah tells us who is wealthy, one who is joyful with their portion. The language of Chazal, one second, sorry, let me just read this again. Chelek, so again, now the Mishnah opens a new meaning. Who is wealthy? One who is joyous with their portion. Chelek in the language of Chazal, the Mishnah does not praise poverty. It praises presence. True wealth belongs to a person who lives inside their own life rather than postponing it. Not frantic, not chasing, not wanting the future to begin, but rooted in now. Conscious within experience, whole in the portion of time that they are in. Such a person lives from das. They use the nefesh as an instrument of expression, not as a support machine, a life support machine. Therefore, what they receive deepens their joy. What they receive, if you receive something in a state of das, hakar satov, whoa. There's another nakuda here which is so important to share. There's an exercise that we've done before, and that is, I don't deserve anything. Now, I don't deserve anything coming from nefesh can hurt us, but I don't deserve anything coming from das helps us. So what does that mean? For when someone does something nice to me, I could say thank you. And I can look at them and I can recognize, wow, this is the Nakuda, by the way, of Kavod. Kavod zeh lazeh. Kavod is there's boundaries. You are you and I'm me. Truly, again, expectations and assumptions come from the nefesh. You did something nice for me? Wow. This is the difference between living a life of Olam HaPela and Olam HaTeva. Olam HaTeva is, of course you did something nice to me. You're my wife. Of course you should do this for me. Of course you should do this for me. You're the cleaner. Of course you should do this for me. You're the rabbi. None of us deserve anything from this place of das. Because we're whole. When you live from this place of das and you experience proper kavod, when you live from a place of Olam HaPela, wow. Or, this is what the Rambam's speaking about, or, when the Rambam speaks about how when I sit, I'm misbeinen. Hashem Yisbarach made a world of color. Didn't have to, you know. Hashem Yisbarach made such a variety of food. He didn't have to, you know. Hashem Yisbarach has done this, that, and the other. He didn't have to, you know. We can shift from a place of teva, which is the cycle of assumptions and expectations. I expect this, and I expect that, and I expect the other. I don't really need to say thank you to you, but I'll say thank you to you because I'm polite. When you're functioning from this place of das, Eizehu Ashir. Eizehu Ashir Samech Bechelkai is a person who's functioning from das and they're in Olam and Shana, they're in space and time, and everything is miraculous. You did that for me? Kavod. You did that for me? Whoa. And it's a choice, my friends. It's a choice. Choose to believe and make real my words. It's good for you. You don't have to listen to me. You know what? You don't have to. It's your choice. You don't have to listen to me. But you want to make your life so precious. You want to be excited and joyous. Eizehu Ashir. Who's somebody who's wealthy and rich? The Baldas, the Balas Das who lives in the world of Das. I'm thankful, I'm present, everything Hitchachus is new. This has never been before, this moment has never been before. Whoa, whoa. This Beis HaMedrash has never been before. The people who are here have never been before. Whoa. The chesed that we all do for each other. Whoa. It's emotional. Whoa. Choose to believe and make real. Become a deliberate, conscious practitioner of whoa, Olam HaPela, whoa. Recognizing that there's an Olam Hazeh, there's an Olam HaTeva. But don't confuse where things are coming from, because it hurts us. It doesn't help us. So again, my friends, rereading the Mishnah, Eizehu Ashir. Now the Mishnah opens a new meaning. Who is wealthy? One who is joyous with their portion. Chelek. Chelek in the language of Chazal relates to time, chalakim, measured portion of life's experience. Chelek, Shana and Olam. The Baldas is constantly joyous when they are happy in context to space and time. The Mishnah does not praise poverty, it praises present. True wealth belongs to a person who lives inside their own experience rather than responding to it. Not frantic, not chasing, not waiting for the future to begin, but rooted in now. Conscious within the experience, deliberately conscious. I say to myself, I'm deliberately going to be present. I'm a deliberate conscious practitioner of joy, a deliberate conscious practitioner of love, a deliberate conscious practitioner of excitement, a deliberate conscious practitioner of gratitude. But rooted in now. One of the Nakudas of Das, as we've explained, whether you're looking at anybody, the Gra, and especially the Baal Shem Tov. I used to hear from the Kretschenover Rebbe and the Pilsner Rav, Das is presence. A person is conscious of their experience in the space they are in, they're conscious of the time that they're in. Such a person lives from das. They use their nefesh as an instrument of expression, not as a life support machine. That means they don't get everything from the outside world. I'm happy, and somebody who buys me a gift, this supports my happiness. Somebody who gives me a smile supports my happiness. Therefore, what they receive deepens their joy. What they achieve expands their light. What they lose never destroys their centering. This person owns inner wealth. And Chevra, we want to mamish, we want to expand. And we say in the beginning of Tefillah, it's something so real, something so deep. When we come to the Shemona Esrei, we say 3 times a day, what do we say? Hashem sifsaim tiftach ufi agiti lasecha. The lips open up. But as well, the lips, we're asking Hashem, the lips are what? It's the sea, the yam, the sea. And what do we have when we say Hashem's time tiftach, what do we say? When we stand by the sea, it's big, it's wide, it's deep, it goes on. We eventually look out and we can't see where the heavens and earth touch, where what's it called when you look out in and you see the horizon. Big. We're asking Hashem, allow us to be big. Hashem's time tiftach, open up my lips. Let me be big. Let me draw down from neshama. Let me absorb that light and share it. Bigness. Horizontal, I'm part of a chain. Vertical, I'm in a space and time right now. And the quality of myself is going to impact how I interact and relate to that which is going on. The fast day today, Bein HaMetzarim, allows us to remember what not to fall in. When a person forgets Yetzer Hara, we separate from the truths and values of what's important to us. Chevra, please listen. When the Yetzer Hara starts to become common to us, we move into this world, Chalila v'chas of Amalek. Amalek, they want to hurt us, my friends. They don't want to help us. And then Eruv Rav, we become the owners of the 5 hurtful behaviors, which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. And then Chalil v'chas the Malach HaMaves. The Bein HaMetzarim, this is the journey that took place in the 3 weeks. 1, then 2, another layer of depth, and another layer of depth, till Kodesh Kedoshim. And Chevra, I'm asking of us, you are in charge of your life. Radical opportunity, radical responsibility. So Chevra, Be'ezras Hashem, we're in a moment going to stop for today. What did you hear? A lot of information. What did you hear? And remind yourself how precious you are, how beautiful, wonderful, and fantastic you are. And never give up. Never ever give up. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Ein yiush klal. Be'ezras Hashem. Be joyous. Ezehu ashir. Who's rich? Who's joyous? Somebody who's in a state of das, who experiences a full experience from this place of das. They didn't buy into their nefesh, but they recognize the friendship of the nefesh. The nefesh is important. And Be'ezras Hashem, we should be whole within ourselves. And we should be loyal to that which is important. And there aren't so many things that are important. That's the 6 shifts. We have to care for our beliefs, note what the tikkunim are within our generation, understand the space we are in, understand ourselves, the Arbi Yisaidus, and live it. Yes, it's a language. It's a new language. Yes. But the Nakuda is, it's our language to be learned, and it improves our life. This is the Derech Eretz Kadma L'Torah, and we're so close. We are so, so close. We're so close to something. What? I don't know. But we're so close. Be'ezras Hashem Chevra, we should go from strength to strength. And once the recorder is switched off, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, we will sit and we will do our check-in and share and process. And we will hear from one another. What did I hear today? What do I walk away with today? What's going to benefit my life? Because I'm worth it. Bracha, mazel, and hatzlacha, much love.